And we're live.
Hi, everyone in interweb land. My name is Helen French, and I'm the Director of Development and Continuing Education at the National Association of Social Workers in New Jersey. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm here with Dr. Robin C. Wiley, who I'm thrilled that she's joined us. Thank you so much. Who will be leading a very special certificate program that we'll be holding. It starts September 29th. It's a certificate program around aging and older adults. And Dr. Wiley specializes in this subject. And let me tell you her website, which is theexperienceofaging.com. So welcome, Dr. Robin. Really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's an honor, truly.
Yeah, yeah. So, I was just saying before we got live that I read a statistic that 10,000 baby boomers per day are retiring. So older adults and aging is a growth opportunity. But I wondered if you could talk about why it's important to have this specialized training.
So certainly, and I've seen this in my own practice, but one of the things I think we need to realize is that no matter what area of social work we work in, we're going to encounter older adults, or we're going to encounter families that are trying to navigate certain challenges or concerns that they may have with their older adult family members. So I feel like it's important to have some knowledge about what older adults experience. It's definitely, I feel like, an area that is a demographic that is not seen necessarily as needing assistance when it comes to mental health challenges or concerns. I think we sort of minimize the experiences that older adults have because we just assume like, well, yeah, when you're older, of course, you're going to experience loss and those types of things. But I don't think we realize necessarily how significant it is. And the other thing and I always say this, every training that I've ever done, I always bring this, it's a quote, and I kind of paraphrase it that I read when I was doing my research. Older adults or the aging population is the only group that we discriminate against, that we eventually will become part of that group. Something that has stuck with me throughout this whole, the whole time that I've been working with older adults. And it's so true. We minimize some of their needs. We don't always necessarily maybe understand some of the things that they may be going through. And I think as a society, older adults realize maybe what we think of them. And so older adults also kind of internalize some of that negative thinking about aging and that kind of stuff. So I feel like for those of us who are, whether you're working, direct practice or administration, or whether you're working in a hospital, a school, wherever, it's important for us to know some of the things that older adults, and also know what strategies may be effective, what's possibly best practice, and understanding, the different dynamics that go on with older adults as they go through the stage of from retirement to, as they make maybe downsizing, their home and those types of things. Those are all major changes in their lives. So
yeah, you've put together a very interesting certificate program. It's 5 courses, 2 hours per course, so it's very doable. And if people can't do the 5 courses, they can also take them individually. And people can get information at our website, naswnj.org. One of the classes you're going to be talking about clinical interventions. And I wondered if you could just give us a brief overview of that.
So, yes. So the second workshop is like clinical implications and effective interventions. And so there's a lot of history in terms of how we have approached certain things with older adults. And so I like to kind of go into some of the historical best practice interventions and to really show how that's evolved over time. And some of it are things that, clinicians, those of us who are, doing therapy will be familiar with, but there is this need to tweak, if you will, or enhance or accommodate certain sort of characteristics of some of our therapeutic approaches for older adults. Even how we approach therapy in general. A lot of older adults being of a certain generation, of course, not necessarily so open to going to see somebody for quote unquote help, maybe feeling, stigmatized by that or feeling they're being labeled. So this training will also go into some various strategies on how to engage with older adults. Some of the things that we may not necessarily think about, like, how we address an older adult, in terms of, do you call them by their first name? Are you calling them Ms. such and such or Mr. such and such, right? How they address us. All those things play a role in engagement. And so we're going to talk about that. We're also, part of that workshop is also talking about some of the ethical considerations with older adults. A lot of therapeutic work with older or aging individuals may occur in their home. So that kind of is a different, that's a different venue for a lot of therapists. And so I think it can be certainly a great thing, and I think it has its advantages, but we definitely have to look at, some of the ethical boundaries and that kind of stuff related to that.
Yeah. So I think, there's a general theme or a constant of older adults across populations. However, there's also special considerations depending on the culture you come from, right? Can you speak to that a little bit?
So yes, so of course, I could not put this together without having a section or a workshop about intersectionality in older adults, because we don't want to just label all the aging population, older adults, like put them in one box and this is it. We have to take into consideration, all those other areas, how in terms of how they identify. So in that training, we're looking at, race and ethnicity. We're looking at identity in terms of sexuality, LGBTQ+, and how all of that impacts their experiences, not just in those other areas with how they identify, but also as an older adult. So, so I'm very excited to bring that particular workshop, because I think, as we all want to be, to have this, we don't want to say cultural competency, because it's impossible to be completely competent about everybody's culture, because people can look the same or seem to look the same, but they don't identify the same. And there's nothing different about that with older adults. So we have to be respectful of that and to really kind of engage that. But also in terms of terminology, a lot of older adults are not going to use the same terms that we may be using nowadays. And to be respectful of how they identify, and also those experiences that they've had, for older adults of color who have lived during certain times that have been very traumatic for them. So there's that piece too. So we're kind of, of course, it's a lot to try to put into 2 hours. This could probably easily be like a 50-hour course, but it's the idea to get people to start thinking about these things, to start implementing some of the strategies we're going to talk about in their practice, and to also be ready for if an older adult comes into your practice, or a family member comes in and they say, look, my parent or my uncle or whomever is going through X, Y, and Z, and they're older, and I'm trying to figure out how to best support them. And that's also, I have some information on my website kind of about that too, to just help families to be able to support their older loved ones.
So I'm 56. I know you can't believe it. What do we consider an older adult these days?
Oh yeah, well, I'm 50. So here's the thing with the whole, right. So there's one of the issues right there, honestly, Helen, is, when you look at the literature that's out there, older adults, they started, they'll go from like 50 and up, and which is, if you're in your 50s, you're like, excuse me,
right.
And so, there's these categories like the young old, the old, that kind of thing. And I always say, you know, I try to always kind of have a disclaimer, because I feel like nowadays, you know, it's very hard to categorize people by their age. Because someone could be in their 80s. You know, I have, you know, clients in their 80s that still work every day, you know, had no consideration of retirement anytime soon. And so, you know, it's a shame that, but I think it's a shame that, you know, we live in a world where, you know, we're kind of counting people out because of their age. And especially because when you get to that age, you know, you have to look at how you're functioning, how you're feeling. And I think, you know, when you think about how society may be doing that in a sense, you know, unknowingly, I feel like, I don't think it's intentional, but when you read in the literature that, oh, okay, you know, 55 and up or 50 and up, you know, it's just like, okay, so am I already in a category? So then that can cause you to have some thoughts about like aging and how you feel and what you should be doing or what you shouldn't be doing. And so hopefully with this, you know, these workshops, they kind of dispel some of those myths. And also I'm also really hoping to encourage our emerging social workers and the folks that are coming into the field now to really work with this population. Because there is sort of a little bit of a disconnect of individuals not working with older adults or not focusing in that area. So I'm really hoping to shed light on that and to, you know, just to create some more knowledge and to get people as excited about working with older adults as I am. You know, it's been definitely, it can be challenging at times, but I think the rewards far outweigh that. You know, because there's a lot of support that older adults need and can utilize and appreciate.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, I have loved working with you. Can't wait for this series to begin. Again, if you want to sign up for the certificate, information is available at naswnj.org. Go under events. First class starts on September 29th. If you can't take all 5 classes, but you should, you can sign up individually for each class. Robin, any last words?
I really appreciate this opportunity to be able to bring this information to social workers all across the state of New Jersey. And, you know, you never know, we may have people from outside of the state too. And I just hope that people will sign up for all the classes, or at least, you know, those that you feel like will be of interest. I know people are busy, but I really appreciate it. And hopefully, you know, this will start a trend of us, you know, really seeing that, you know, older adults can utilize the services that social workers provide.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Robin. Appreciate your time, and we will see you soon. And thank you, Facebook. We'll see you soon too.